Howdy y'all, and welcome to another edition of Talking the Red. If this is your first time watching one of my video guides, my name is Wes and I play Kyra Vast on the Balmung server. In this video series, I basically watch through a clear video of one of my Savage or Extreme run-throughs and give my thoughts as far as my thought process in playing a high-end Red Mage. These are not meant to be super high-end raid guides with a bunch of diagrams or anything like that. It's also not really made for Red Mages that already know what they're doing or already parsing well and just looking for a little bits to optimize. This is really made for Red Mages that might be interested in Savage and have never really given it a look, or maybe having trouble figuring out certain parts of a fight and so on. It's very casual, and sure enough, we'll go ahead and get started. We are going to be doing P9S today, which is the first raid of the new tier that just came out last week, and it is a doozy. It is one of the harder entry fights that I've seen to a tier, at least in terms of party finder, which is how I pretty much do all of my raiding, right? For a Red Mage, most of this fight is pretty bog standard. It's mostly going to come down to mechanics more than anything else. That's what's going to wipe and hurt your DPS more than anything else. But there are a few little things here and there to optimize that we'll kind of go over as we get through. It's very unique in terms of Red Mage fights that I've seen so far. A lot of different points to kind of hold and, really kind of think ahead and plan ahead in terms of what you're going to be doing next. Opener's pretty standard, big raid wides. Here is where I usually use my Addle. I have not really figured out if it's even really doing anything. The timing on this is so weird. The snapshot is kind of wonky, but there is a little bit of time there where you can hit both the cast bar and the finish of the animation. So if as long as I don't pull early, you can probably fit it in there. This fight I think ended up being 91 or something like that, which is actually less than the fight that I got a 93 on and died during Limit Cut 2. So needless to say, this is a very, very wonky tier in terms of numbers. So, don't put too much stock in it. For right now, the most important thing is just learning your mechanics. Right here, it's always going to be a stack, then clocks, and then stack. Just kind of pay attention to the hands there. We had the support rotate, which as a Red Mage, I didn't really notice too much of a difference. I don't mind rotating. We're kind of slow when it comes to movement nowadays, so you can really kind of go anywhere and figure out the timing of your cast. You've got enough time to fit your cast in for the most part in most of this. Now, coming up is probably the first real big optimization thing that I've noticed, at least. You'll notice that I'm going to hold on to my modification for a little bit. I'm going to sync it up with the Embolden. Part of that is obviously for the raid-wide damage, help out the other party members and everything, but it's also for these walls coming up. If you just go ahead and do a couple of your bog standard casts here, it's really nice to just be able to pop that Embolden and modification combo, and then you've got enough for 2 melee combos back to back right as the wall hits. And what's really important about that is that this is really one of those parts that's all personal responsibility. It's a lot to keep track of. The cracks are really hard to see, and then you've got the in and out on top of it. So having that second melee combo right there, it's all instant casts, so it allows you a little bit more time to kind of get a lay of the land without having to really focus too much on trying to fit in and greed those extra longer casts in there, right? And then of course the demolish here, and then this is where I start using the magic barrier. I don't know if I fit it in time here, but the extra heals will be nice anyways. But yeah, you can get it in a little bit earlier than that. I've found that Algard actually does quite a bit of damage, and really there's just a lot of raid wide damage going on through here, so every little bit you can help the healers with is gonna be important. Everyone in this group was really solid. I mean, we were blitzing through this. I think everyone here was at least 90s or close to it, but even then you can see that the healers we're getting pretty low in a couple of these cases. So until people get more gear, it's going to be important to kind of keep track of when you're using your magic barrier and addles, right? All right, and so here we go with the limit cut. I think I get the 4th defamation in this one, which is really not that bad. It's just a little bit of running back and forth. But you do notice that I hold my melee combo there. One, it's really hard to fit it in unless you were just really on top of things or happen to be the one to pull by accident, something like that. I find that it's a little bit easier just to be able to start the second phase with the melee combo in hand. You've got the embolden ready. I mean, so much stuff is going to be coming off of cooldown by the end of this that it's just easier. Plus with the melee combo, it gives you a little bit more time to get a feel for where your marker is. That's one of the other big wipe points this early into the fight is just getting into place. So every little bit that you can get to kind of keep track of where you're standing is going to help out. I go ahead and popped my second pot there. You know, there might be a better place to optimize it. I've just kind of gotten used to it at this point. It's pretty nice. Like I said, just helps kind of kick off that second phase a little bit. All right, another Ravening here. Here we go. And we're going to start getting into Meteors. Now, Meteors is, to me, one of the trickier parts of the fight for Red Mage, at least in terms of just really optimizing things. Like, the mechanic itself isn't all that terrible. If you've watched my live streams, you know that we spent like 2.5-3 months on Living Liquids, so the Protean bait really is nothing too terrible. But there's a lot of movement. Obviously, you've got to hide behind the meteors, and the Thunderbolt cast is surprisingly fast compared to everything else in this fight. So it can be really hard to fit in and greed those extra casts. It might help if you have an extra swift cast or an extra acceleration sitting by for those kind of situations. It might help out a little bit, but like right here, you can't really core a core too early or else you end up getting popped by the meteor. So yeah, it's just kind of tricky. You know, as people get more familiar with the fight, and RNG has a little bit to do with it, with the meteor placement, that can help out a little bit. You know, it might get a little bit easier over time, but to me, the meteors are the hardest part to actually maintain that DPS output more than anything else. It's easy to avoid a wipe. It's not a hard mechanic, but a little bit tricky if you're trying to get those upper numbers. Here we go, another Ravening here. All right, and now for this next portion, it's kind of the same situation as the first cracks, where you could theoretically fit in 2 melee combos, but it's pretty difficult. You've got to have some good luck with your procs throughout the fight to be able to really fit in 2. This one comes out much faster than the other one. There we go. So I went ahead in this fight and saved it for when we're getting up close again. Again, just makes it a little bit easier to kind of keep track of everything going on around this stage there. There you go. See, now I can go ahead and get in and use it. All right, and get into our stack spots there. And again, same as always, just always remember your buddy. All right, I've had a lot of groups that are so focused on the colors and where the markers are placed, when the easiest thing to do is just remember who you're with the entire time, right? They're your buddy that whole fight. You know, don't leave your friend behind. We did go ahead and have the range stack with or bait the limit cut here. It just makes it a little bit easier for the rest of the group. This is another spot where a lot of groups wipe, because it is kind of tricky to try and figure out what that proximity damage going out is going to look like whenever he does the jump. But as a range, it's really not too bad. If you've got an acceleration, it's pretty easy to fit them in. Here we go, without losing a whole lot anyways. Much easier than the first limit cut, at least. All right, but yeah, this was like an 8-minute and 45-second fight. We were just absolutely blitzing through it, so not a whole lot to talk about here at the end. But yeah, it's definitely a tricky fight, a lot of pain points, but to be honest, very little of it has anything to do with your damage. Like I said, I had a really nice run that I didn't even think was a nice run, and half the party wiped in that one. It's very generous with the enrage, so you've got more than enough time to get people up if you've got to do the Red Mage thing, right? Here we go. But yeah, you know, it's definitely a fight that is all about the mechanics, really, and discussing with your group, getting that practice in. The second phase, I think, can actually be a little bit trickier because so few people get to see it, right? Like Limit Cut 1 is really kind of the pain point for most party finder groups right now. And then once you get past it, you might only see the second half a couple of times before you clear it. So really trying to optimize that second half is probably the hardest part. But again, with time, you'll be able to figure it out. Anyways, I hope that kind of gave you some ideas and just a quick look at as far as what I was doing as a Red Mage. Might give you some ideas in terms of what to do with your own optimization or a couple little tricks here and there. Obviously, you know, there's going to be people that might have better suggestions or something that's going to be a little bit different for your group. Again, I only really raid through Party Finder, so if you do have a static, work with them to figure out your emboldens and all of that stuff. Maybe they want to hold it or use it at a different time than I did here. But overall, very, very fun fight, a very good intro to the tier. Definitely a pain for Party Finder. There's no real question about that. Not looking forward to trying to prog through P9S, but you know, hopefully a couple more people will have some guides out by then, right? That being said, thanks a ton for watching. I'm glad we were finally able to get this done. It took me like 2 days of trying to get this footage, so hey, we did it. With that being said, I take care and I will see you next stream. Bye bye.